I also do want to say that I'm trying, like I really want to try with this predictions to be very chill and optimistic. However, when it comes to Star Wars, that's difficult. Like that is really difficult for me to actually look ahead at what Star Wars could be cooking, what's going on with the Star Wars brand, and be positive, okay? So I want to go through the main things that will happen this year for Star Wars, you know, different ways those things could go, and then I'll give my predictions, my actual predictions on how this will go, okay? So Star Wars is in kind of a weird spot. As we transition into 2025, Skeleton Crew is technically still going on. So Skeleton Crew is technically a part of this conversation. I think there are 2 more episodes of Skeleton Crew, or maybe just 2 more weeks and 3 episodes. I'm not entirely sure. And, you know, I suppose how that show finishes up is technically the first thing that you would grade Star Wars on as far as like a report card. As far as I can tell, Skeleton Crew is a show that is not drumming up a ton of hate or backlash. I think a lot of people that are still watching Star Wars content actually enjoy the show. And I think overall, the impression I'm getting is that fans are liking Skeleton Kids way more than Acolyte, way more than a lot of other shows, which totally get it. It is, at least from what I've seen, more of a competently made show. It's got some Star Wars flavor in it. You know, it's got a nice nostalgic throwback to, you know, 80s movies, a bunch of old Spielberg stuff, Amblin vibes for sure. Okay? But I don't think the show is popular, and I don't think it's performing the way that Disney wants. And so I would be surprised if that show was greenlit for a second season. So what I'm saying is we're about to find out in the next couple of weeks, and technically the first thing that's going to happen for Star Wars this year is realizing, or, you know, showing us, was the audience for Skeleton Crew good enough to warrant a second season? I mean, we're coming off last year where Acolyte was canceled. You know, crazy. This is the first time in a long time that Star Wars had a plan. They were going to do this thing, and they finally, like, face reality. So far, we don't have Nielsen numbers for Skeleton Crew. That's probably coming within the next couple of weeks, right? So far, we have some stuff from, like, Luminant, Parrot Analytics, you know, some companies like that. And it doesn't seem to be going well, right? But we'll know in the next couple of weeks for sure how well it is going. And it will probably break in the trades relatively soon, whether or not we will get a second season. So it's kind of interesting. There was an article put out yesterday on Forbes by Paul Tassi. Paul Tassi was talking about a Knights of the Old Republic show and the rumors of that, which apparently do come from Daniel RPK. That's pretty cool. That's pretty interesting. But one of the things that Paul talks about in this article is, he says here, Skeleton Crew is ongoing, has received a lot of praise, but viewership appears low. And it still has a $136 million budget. It's unclear if it's performing well enough to return. I think that's pretty key, and I think we're going to find out. So, Skeleton Crew, a couple of different ways this could go. You could get some numbers released from Disney. It did this, it did that. We loved the numbers. We're doing season 2. Get some Nielsen numbers. And, oh, man, it's doing better than we thought. Oh, man, a couple of weeks from now, we might know that viewership is ticking up. Maybe the finale charts. Pardon me, I had to sneeze there. But technically, that's the first thing that could happen. I think the good way to go would be it gets greenlit for season 2. People like it. People are watching it. Bad thing would be nobody's watching this shit. Canceled. Okay? Now, that takes us into the next thing for Star Wars. And this is to me, this makes or breaks not only the year for Star Wars as a franchise. This makes or breaks the next 5 years for Star Wars as a franchise. We are talking, of course, about Star Wars Celebration Japan in April of this year. right around the corner. April of this year. Now, a lot of stuff potentially happening at Star Wars Celebration. The most important and pertinent question: will Kathleen Kennedy be stepping down and no longer be the president of Lucasfilm? This is a massive question. The question needs to be followed up by who takes over for her if she leaves. If she truly is gone, who is taking over? There are two ways this could go. One, it feels like a great pick that seems to have a different vision, and a lot of Star Wars fans can look forward to potentially a new regime, a new outlook, new Star Wars content, okay? So this could be like Dave Filoni takes over, although I think at this point Dave has been so supportive of Kathleen, it doesn't feel like that's different enough. Maybe it's John, and I got to be honest, if it were John, I'd feel pretty good about it because there's a lot of rumors that he beefs with Kathy behind the scenes, not in like a unprofessional way, but in a way that like creatively I like, because you got to stand your ground. You got to kind of push back against things you don't believe in. I would trust Jon Favreau way more than Kathleen Kennedy, okay? And then I want to throw a wild card out here. I don't actually anticipate this happening, but it is technically possible. It is possible that Kevin Feige is involved in Star Wars in some way, okay? I could do a whole hour on this, the history of this, why it was shut down, why it was, pushed to the side by Kathleen Kennedy. Strangely, as I was thinking about this, and I was talking to my wife about it after I made some of these notes, I was kind of depressed. I was like, oh my God, Star Wars is cooked. And I was trying to think of like positive ways that this could go, or like things that could happen that would be good. And I thought back to D23 at the end of last year, where we saw Kevin Feige and Dave Filoni on stage together for a couple of different parts of that presentation. And I loved it. I thought those two guys together, that's brilliant. And if they can push Dave and, kind of hitch him a little bit to Kevin, I think that's a public front-facing win. But, I mean, frankly, Kevin has a lot of work to do to kind of clean up his own house and get all that stuff sorted. So I'm not sure if that'll actually happen. The other scenario is that it is just a company person, some protege of Kathleen Kennedy, or some person that essentially signals to us, the fan base, that it's just more of the same. That's, those are the two options. So to me, that's like the biggest deal. That really is make or break for the brand. However, they still have the opportunity to announce some really cool stuff at Celebration. So maybe we get a Mando and Grogu trailer. That could be epic. Maybe we get an updated slate of these films, because out of the 3 movies that they announced at Celebration last year, or maybe the year before, none of them are in production. You know what I mean? We got a whole different movie. That's the 4th season of a TV show. That's the next film. Everything else, rocky times. So what the hell's going on with that? Can you clarify it? And can you tell us what movies are actually happening? I think the Mangold film's a good move. I think all the stuff with Rey is a terrible move. So we'll see. You've got shows, you got animated stuff, a lot of different things they could announce. But I think the most important things for how Star Wars will perform with fans in 2025 has to do with Kathleen Kennedy either stepping down or saying that she's realized the secret to immortality and that the dark side of the Force is a pathway to many abilities some considered unnatural. It will also be really important who takes over for her. This could be more of the same or something totally different, which would be great, in my opinion. After that, next thing for Star Wars, and this is a big deal too, Andor Season 2. Andor Season 2 set to come out in August. Guys, as far as I understand it, this is the only live-action Star Wars show in 2025, unless you're counting the last 2 episodes of Skeleton Crew. And oh my goodness, does Star Wars need a win? So, this will go one of 2 ways. Andor Season 2 will get bigger viewership than Season 1, which is possible. We've got very good word of mouth on Season 1, even though I thought it was so boring. You have to admit, a lot of positive word of mouth there. That could help Season 2. You've got a change to the show, according to a lot of people involved with it. It's going to be different this time, a little bit more Star Wars-y. The structure of it's really interesting. 4 years, 3 episode arcs, 12 episode season. It's a full-on dilly-dally, right? So you're going to have like 3 episodes truncated into a year, 3 episodes, 3 episodes, 3 episodes. That's pretty interesting. Oh, it's April? I wrote down August. Jeez, man. Cancel the whole goddamn stream now. Okay, so April, like I said, wait a minute. Really? April? So they're double dipping. They're going to have Celebration and Andor. That's going to be a quiet back half of the year for them. Holy. Okay. So again, they need the dub. I think there's a chance that the viewership could be better than Season 1. How much better? That's an interesting question. And I think the real question is the brand damage to Star Wars itself so bad that we're sort of not really concerned with quality anymore? You know, the Sony CEO that made all those wild comments that recently stepped down, he said that those films were snake bitten. And that it didn't matter how good they weren't going to perform. Now, he was wrong. But when it comes to Star Wars, you could make the argument that it is sort of snake bitten. I mean, even Andor was considered by most that watched it a really good show. And its viewership was abysmally low. That had more to do with all of the other shows and the lack of movies and just, I think, a general just... People didn't like what was going on with Star Wars. So they didn't care. I mean, even Skeleton Kids, like for me, I don't really like the show. But I think if this were a couple of years earlier and I wasn't so frustrated with Star Wars, I probably wouldn't be 2 episodes behind and have 0 plans to watch them anytime soon. You know what I mean? So that is a big question that I think will be answered by how the fan base responds to Andor Season 2. So, these are what's happening. Now, let me make my prediction. And I'm sorry to say, I'm not predicting positively here for Star Wars. So, I predict that Kathleen Kennedy will step down at Celebration. But I also predict that the people or the person that takes over for her is going to just feel like more of the same. I do not think that you're going to get a whole new outlook. I don't think that the brand has gotten bad enough. I mean, it has gotten bad enough. But I don't think Disney recognizes it as being so bad that they need to like overhaul, reboot, you know, fire people, recalibrate. You know, I brought this up on Twitter today. It's so weird. For the past 2 years, Bob Iger, ever since he came back, he's been talking a lot about Marvel. And initially, he kind of talked some shit. You know, he was talking about how they had no television experience and how there was going to be consequences, this, that, second, and the third. He also praised them a lot in different earning calls and things of that nature. Marvel's been on the tip of his tongue very often in these past 2 years. And we've seen executives let go at Marvel Studios, like they're dropping like flies over there. My question, I think many people's question, is like, well, where is the accountability for Star Wars? Where's the attention for Star Wars? Why aren't you even talking about Star Wars? What is going on? It's so weird. So I think the strategy over there is whack. I think they're going to pretend that nothing is happening, that there's no damage done. And so I predict Kathy will step down, but the person that replaces her will literally say something to the effect of carrying on the legacy of what Kathleen Kennedy has built for the Star Wars brand, and we're so proud of it, etc., etc. Nightmare scenario. That's what I think is going to happen. I think the official movie updates at Celebration will involve talking about the Rey movies. I think Andor Season 2 is probably going to be pretty good. But I don't think it's going to get viewership worthy of the cost of the show. And I think 2025 will be the precursor to 2026, which will be the year that Disney finally has to step in. This is just my opinion, but I think after Mando and Grogu underperforms at the box office, I believe Disney will step in, and I believe you will get some kind of a break, some kind of a reboot or a retooling. I think that will happen. That's my personal prediction. And I think 2025 will be the year that, like, we see the plan develop as trying to ignore the problems and not really change. And then I think 2026 is the year where the bottom falls out. That's my prediction for Star Wars in 2025 and in 2026. Kind of tough, but that's just generally, that's honestly how I feel it's going to go.